What's up, guys? I guess I should bring the mic closer. If you're joining me live, it's about 9 o'clock Eastern time. What's up, Dallin?
Right on time.
Right on time. I was getting prepared to start without you.
No, I just had to finish a quick game of Ticket to Ride, and I'm here.
Ooh, did you go the northern route through Canada, or did you come from LA to New York?
Well, we actually played the Sails and Rails,
Oh, I don't know
so
Sales
it's
and
the
Rails.
whole world one. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
Damn. Well, next time I'm in Jacksonville,
Yeah, absolutely.
you're on. I was gonna my promo that started, if you weren't here, was gonna be for HCR CBD. Because I support our show,
You
and I
just use it
actually
as
was.
deodorant.
If I'm in a pinch, but no, I did a bunch of ring work and then muscle ups in the workout today. So I'm going to preemptively try to reduce this fatigue and soreness in the biceps there.
For sure. Anytime I don't do chest to bar for like 2 weeks and then I do like an intense workout with them, I can't straighten my arms, and it's probably the worst soreness you can feel. It's biceps.
Years ago, I think it was probably 2015 or 16, I did the workout Nicole. You familiar with it?
Mm-hmm.
20-minute AMRAP of 400-meter run and then max pull-ups.
Yeah.
And that was the only time I feel like I ever had rhabdo. And
it's such a bad feeling.
Not funny thing about it is that there was a podcast about that workout, and it was an interview. I think it might have been Sevon. I'm not 100% sure. It might have just been a Pat Sherwood interviewing her.
Yeah.
But it was Nicole Carroll on the podcast, and she talked about the first time she did it. She doesn't call it by rhabdo, but she's like, I had to coach or do a seminar that week, and I couldn't straighten my arms to do the drills. And she's saying this in the level 1. And there's a guy in the class that's like, oh, I did that workout this week because you guys talked about it. I can't straighten my arms either. They're like celebrating it. I'm like,
yes, we did it. My hands are all bloody and ripped up too.
And it's a benchmark workout. So it's one of these workouts that I never really think to program or to do. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Serbia, and I showed up at a gym that Lazar used to coach at to do a seminar and to coach. I was going to coach a class and then take a class. I just was integrating with the community there, and the workout was Nicole. But I loved this nuance. They mandated kipping pull-ups, so you didn't have to, you could not butterfly, and it was way better. I did about half the total volume of pull-ups, and I felt twice as good.
Yeah, it's gonna be way more grip fatigue. Whenever we want to limit pulling volume but still hang and then fatigue the grip, we always go kipping pull-ups or kipping chest to bar.
Yeah, and probably good practice for a lot of people to you never want to forget the basics. You gotta always practice.
For sure.
So anyway, there's a little sidetrack to start, but not always fun to kind of go down a little memory lane. Are you back in Jacksonville now?
Yeah, we got back really late last night. It was
same.
Really?
Maybe not as late as you. I got here to my apartment at 8, but because of the West Coast, I stayed up pretty late, and then I slept pretty late.
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't feel bad inviting you to do a 9 p.m. podcast.
No, yeah. I finally went to bed at 3 last night.
Oh shit! Yeah, you were.
But that's midnight, California, and we were up late the night before, hanging out with everybody. So it was fine. I wasn't too tired. But.
Well, the general gist of the show is just going to be kind of reflecting on the weekend. But actually, since we're already there, let's start at the end, because last night in LA at the hotel, I think there was an after party somewhere else, but basically somehow or another, all the athletes, a bunch of the coaches, some of the competition organizers, some of the media just ended up in the hotel lobby, and it was maybe 9 o'clock at night, and next thing I knew it was 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most. It was one of the most unique. I don't go to after parties, and there might have been a couple guys that were a little drunk by the end of the night, but nobody was really hammered. Nobody was dancing. Nobody was doing anything crazy. And every time I looked around, there were just these kind of organic, natural hanging out, like you said, conversations going on. And the pattern of who was talking to whom was not necessarily what you would have predicted or expected.
No.
It was just kind of a random groups of people talking to each other. So I wanted to get your perspective on it.
Yeah, I tried to go to bed for an hour, and every time, I wasn't sure if I'd see some people, so I'd walk around and be like, hey, going to bed, so much fun, like saying goodbye. And then next thing you know, I'm talking to that group for 15, 20 minutes. I move on to the next one. And so we were down there for an extra hour and a half. And I was like, okay, I'm going to bed now. It was just like talking to people that, like talking to other athletes that maybe it's just like, hey, what's up, in passing at other competitions, and just really getting to know them. And it was fun to integrate the male and female competition because we don't see them a ton. Like we kind of just like stick with the people we know at the games and semifinals, that type of thing. And it was just super fun to get to know everybody a lot better in a less intense situation.
Yeah, and I think that that sentiment. Look at this. It's BK's birthday today, so maybe he was saving a little something.
Yeah, BK's having a good time, I'm sure.
But that final evening was kind of a capstone on this thing you described of the whole week that I'm not sure the athletes were necessarily expecting, of exactly what you talked about, the opportunity to actually get to know the people side of some of either your closest competitors on the men's side or some of the parallel female athletes on the other side.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was incredible, just the whole weekend. I know everyone's posting like this was the coolest thing I've done in my career, and I fully back that. Like it was so much fun.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have somebody on. And even though Barry McCockiner often gives me a hard time, he and I could probably agree about this statement. And I just decided, because we kind of talked about it. He's not the only one who thinks that, by the way. We kind of talked about it last night, you and I personally, that I just was really impressed with your performance as a whole, and that this MVP voting is a fan vote. It was meant to be in honor of Lazar, of course, but also
Absolutely.
not just considering necessary performance on the field of play. And then it was nice for me today also because I hadn't really done much, but I saw that Spin put out something on his Instagram, and that your competition record and the times you took the floor was 6-1, which is, against that caliber of competitor, that's pretty serious stuff. 6-1.
Yeah, I mean it was good. I mean, I also do feel like a lot of the events, like I'd hope I would get the win in. Like we tried to play to everyone's strengths, but there definitely was other ones that like I mean the long run on the beach, like yeah, I didn't win on our team, but I was able to not lose time to anybody and put up the third fastest time. And so little stuff like that was really good. And I looked at specifically that event as a great test, another opportunity to go head to head against the fittest in the world in a low stakes situation.
So we'll get to a couple of the workouts in a bit. By the way, if you have, I have a few questions from you guys earlier today on Instagram that we may weave into the conversation. But if there's something that you specifically want to ask Dallin, feel free to drop it in the comments. And if it's a good question, we'll get to it later on. But I wanted to back up, like way back up, because like you said, right now, everybody is praising this week as being, unique, different, needed, special, whatever. But when you first saw the TYR Cup get announced, it was 14 months ago. It was in July of 2023. Did it register on your radar at all as something meaningful, as something you wanted to be a part of, or was it just too far away for you to really even think about it?
I mean, I knew pretty quickly like this was like a take on the Invitational, and I made a post like as we were driving to Huntington Beach from the airport. I was just kind of like looking, just thinking about the weekend ahead. And I mean, that's what, when I was watching the Invitational as a 13, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, it was like these guys that are competing here are the best of the best, and they've made it. Like it was like the all-star game, like all of these, like it was so cool to watch. And so I knew in the back of my mind that that's kind of the feel I was hoping it would be like. And I mean, I didn't think about it too much during the season, but in the back of my mind, I knew like if you perform well, you're gonna get the opportunities that you wouldn't if you aren't performing as well. And so that's something that, like, winning the games, winning rogue, like all of these things do keep me driven. But just creating opportunities to create these memories with friends and competitors and people that support me, and just getting to know people is one of the biggest motivations I could ask for.
I think this is the post.
Yeah, that's the one.
Cool. Yeah, and this was actually, I was talking with Matt Torres towards the end of the weekend. I think it was on the last night, maybe after you'd already done your fun workout there.
Yeah.
And he had mentioned that it was actually something that was important to you to be able to represent your country or your part of the world
Yeah.
by, based on your earning the right to do that, basically by your
Yeah.
performance. And in the run up to the TYR Cup this year, the format for it was unknown, and they were slowly releasing kind of some
Mm-hmm.
news about how it was going to go, the different workouts, how we're going to select the athletes, and then they start making selections, and they made 3 selections, and they left one up for the captain to pick from, basically. And I mean, you probably found out, like, okay, well, I'm not getting one of the 3 picks, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to be picked for it. And then there was some. I know there was the conversation. I can't remember if you've talked about it publicly. I think we did
Yeah.
when you were actually picked. That, like, the guys who were selected, were going to use the games as kind of a metric and say, hey, there's plenty of good picks in North America. We've kind of zoned in on Brent and Dallin, and you kind of knew going into the games that you had it, with everything that obviously there is to compete for at the CrossFit Games in terms of your career resume, financial earnings, sponsorship bonuses, whatever. That was
Mm-hmm.
another little carrot for you.
Yeah.
And something that I think I know now was how much more important it was than I really realized.
Yeah. I mean, we got a message from Pat, me and Brent did the day before the games, and we're like, all right, it's between you two. You guys are basically a draw when you look at strengths and weaknesses, and they differ a little bit, but in the end, we're very similar athletes. And he said, if you guys are cool with it, Tier and Dylan are gonna let you compete for it. And so we both agreed on it, and it was honestly going into the last event, I kind of assumed Brent had it locked up. But then they became 200 points. There was 2 scored events, and anything can happen on Sunday. That's for sure.
Well, you've made a pretty good name for yourself on Sundays over the last year, as some people will be aware
Yeah.
of, and you did it again there. And so then you get the opportunity. Obviously, you get the invite. We did the show. We had the announcement. And I think it's been pretty different for everyone following the games, athletes, volunteers, fans, etc. Just trying to balance everything that happened that weekend on and off the field of play and in the run up to this. And I think that you've even said somewhere, my mind's a little bit of a blur from this last week, that you didn't necessarily have the same preparation leading into TYR Cup that you would have had for some other competitions.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us, like the couple of weeks after the games, are always like very chill in terms of training and stuff. But I think this year, especially, like with everything that happened, I think a lot of us were kind of in a bit of a slump, a rut, if you want to call it. I'm not sure. I can't speak for everybody, but some of the people I've talked to, it's definitely been a weird few weeks, and I am grateful for this, that we got to all get together. I think that's one of the things that honestly got me personally through the games, was being around the other athletes and being around the community. And so to be here, and I loved the focus of celebrating Lazar throughout the week, and there were definitely like little reminders, like we were all able to get wristbands on the jerseys, and we were all thinking about him the whole time. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and just to be with everyone. And no one really knows what us athletes go through except the athletes, and that's something we can bond over and talk about. And there's things that don't need to be said to one another that we can understand, and I think that's important. And I'm just grateful to have been around all those athletes again for something special like this.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And I also did want to give the I mean, I know it's a collaborative effort, so it's whether it's a TYR team, the Loud and Live team, or the collective, effort there to make this weekend special in the sense of honoring Lazar, who was, clearly supposed to be a part of it. He was selected to be a captain, and I think they did strike a really good balance between doing that while still, putting on a competition that was fun and exciting to be a part of and to watch.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure, 100% agree with you there.
So we did, you showed up on site there, kind of got with everybody, you guys. And then on Thursday, I think there may be some stuff that comes out after the fact, BTSs and whatever, but the competition hadn't started. But that was a pretty full day for the athletes, where you guys met
Yeah.
pretty early in the morning, had a breakfast, and were more or less doing things the rest of the night. I think even kind of beyond what was originally scheduled or expected, as some things just continued to happen. But I specifically wanted to ask you about the first team practice. I didn't actually get a chance to come to your practice. We had some broadcast stuff and some media stuff that I needed to do. So we went to the World's practice and spent like half an hour there before we needed to go to those things. And I think that there have been this narrative throughout the weekend where, members of your team have talked about, we just kind of synced really easily and everyone kind of got along and everyone was really fit and whatever. But, was that the case from the first moment? And if it was, like, in those first 2 or 3 hours you guys got to practice, what were the kind of biggest things that you learned about each other or accomplished during that time?
Yeah, I think the general theme, I mean, everyone on our team is so fit and like high levels of respect all the way around. And then you add the coaches that are in the room, high level of respect all around. And so everyone's willing to listen to different ideas and like, oh, I think your approach to this is better. Like, let's try this. And so there was just all of that happening. Whether it was like me and Justin testing the wall balls and the GHDs, like little things like, oh, do you think we should throw it towards our chest or have it hit the lap? Slide your knees in so that when the ball hits your lap, it doesn't have any chance of falling between your legs and rolling off to the side. Like, just that was the constant theme through the whole thing. We would practice one event at a time and everyone else would watch, kind of gather information, whether it's coaches or athletes, throw ideas out there. The athletes meeting would take what they liked, got rid of the rest. And it was just a ton of fun. And it seemed very natural for a team that's not really team. It's full of individuals. And that was cool.
That was one of the things that I had heard, was because I went to that world practice, like I said, and there were no coaches there. I mean, it was just the 8 athletes. And then I heard, well, all the coaches were basically with their athletes at North America. And now I'm thinking, man, like, not only do you have 8 seriously fit athletes, I mean, all of whom, like, the best worst finished of those 6 athletes is 6th at the games. That's Alexis, and she's done it twice. Like, the resumes are incredible. So I was thinking to myself, if there was going to be a problem with Team North America, it would be the too many chefs in the kitchen type of a problem, where like everyone thinks they have the best idea. And then you layer in, like you said, a bunch of world-class coaches. But it sounds like, despite the fact that you had, I don't know, 20 to 25 like good opinions, very informed, knowledgeable people about competing in this space, that somehow you guys made it work.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had our moments where everyone's saying like something super similar and everyone's just like ignoring each other. They're not going to deny that those moments happened. But for the most part, everyone like, and that was it, not in like any disrespectful way. It was just like, I mean, as an individual, it's like you think something and you do it. And so it's much easier. But, and then you just have to make sure everyone's on board with whatever we decide and just make sure everyone's willing to go all in on that game plan. And everyone did that, it seemed like. So
that's, well, so, and I guess it's one of those things you never know, until you do it, you don't know how it's going to go, but it's cool that it did work out that way. So we'll go, I guess the last thing I wanted to ask about that day, they did like this panel. I was like, Q&A. I don't think you were invited to be a part of it.
I took a nap.
Yeah. Smart decision. And this was, it was kind of like the first public display for people to watch who weren't a part of the teams, of something that again continued to be a narrative throughout the weekend, which was this kind of mostly playful jabbing at each other back and forth. And to me, as someone who spends a lot of time at CrossFit events, competitions, and with athletes, it was, I mean, I wasn't surprised by Pat Fellner at all. Like, we know what he can be, and the clever, sarcastic, quick-witted nature. But some of the athletes there, Guy, Justin Medeiros, and Tia in particular, I have never seen them like that before. And I didn't know if you had that experience with any of the athletes this week, and where you're like, man, I've always respected this person as a competitor. I've heard that they're funny, but I never knew they were this.
Yeah, I mean, nothing like super specific comes to mind, but I do know that Pat is the wittiest of us all, and I think just by being around him brings that side out of everybody a little bit more, and I think he's kind of the ringleader in that, and it eggs everyone on, and it's fun.
It did seem like everyone was kind of feeding off of it, and even the meekest of
Yeah.
the people there, Alexis and Emma Tall, had a little bit of fun with it. So it was cool to see
Oh yeah.
because, obviously the last competition we saw most of these people, I was very stressful, and this just from the bat, it felt like a relaxed, comfortable environment for people to not just compete hard, but also, show a little bit of their personality and enjoy other people's personalities.
Yeah, that was like the other cool part was we were able to show our personality to the fans more, even while being on the floor. Like during events, whether we were helping our teammates or just watching the events, like uh, I never thought at a CrossFit competition where I'd get the crowd doing the wave like on the floor, like while everyone was doing lifts and like just little stuff like that is just a ton of fun. And uh, it was cool to be able to show the fans that we are just regular people who just work out a lot and we like to have fun.
Let's jump into some of the workouts because
Let's do it.
obviously most people had watched them, but I'd like to get your perspective on it, and especially if there were any, we'll say kind of say what the workout was and who participated, but if there were any debates or if there were like any last minute decisions as far as you guys go, feel free to fill us in on there as well. The first workout was the CrossFit Game Style male, female workout with chest to bars and handstand walking obstacles, some synchro work, but a lot of kind of gymnastics. I saw this workout on paper, and I didn't think there was any way that Team World could compete with you guys. Did you guys have that same feeling?
Uh, yeah, but we also like team has so many question marks. We kind of had the idea that when it came to like all around fitness of a good portion of athletes, like four or more, um, we'd be able to get them. Some of the other events were bigger question marks on that. Uh, but yeah, if we executed well, this was going to be our event to lose.
And you guys rolled out Justin, Pat, Alexis, and Danielle. It felt like you could have, pretty much swapped in Ariel for either of those if you wanted to. You could have. But was there any consideration for you ever doing this one?
I mean, originally on our little spreadsheet, my name was on this one. Uh, but then we looked and I had like 8 or 9 events when we got to like, I was like, because we would text in the group like, hey, here's the event, who feels good about it? And like most of them, I was like, oh yeah, I could probably do this one. This one looks fun. So I tested movements for that. I had been training those movements. And then Thursday when we got there, Pat had done like a little grid system to show how many events each person was doing each day. It was like really when you looked at the four of us men and even the four women, it was like, well, obviously Danielle's going to go in because handstand walking, but we could have swapped anyone because it was just CrossFit and anyone could have made it just fine.
Yeah, and I think that maybe not everyone will realize, without thinking about it, it's not just about who's the best for this one, but how does that fit into everything that we're asking each person to do over the course of 3 days?
Yeah.
This was obviously the first event and something that became very commonplace, but I didn't expect this beforehand necessarily, and definitely not to the extent that it was. And I'd be curious from the athlete's perspective, is that the people who were not doing the work were still involved in the workouts.
Yeah, I think it showed more and more over the weekend as we realized that like event organizers and stuff really didn't care like where we were on the floor, which was awesome. I will highly recommend to them to allow us to do that again because that was one of the funnest parts. But I mean, whether it's tossing people chalk, telling reps, like suggesting strategy, coaching, or just like cheering people on, we were able to be out there and do it all.
Yeah, I want to ask the event organizers, kind of like the head judge, the people who organize the floor and whatever, how much of that they expected.
Yeah.
Did they just kind of see it happening? They're like, yeah, let's let that happen, or whatever. Because I agree with you, it was beautiful to watch, and it to me, obviously not being out there, it made me feel like even the people who were maybe asked to do one thing that night still felt like they were contributing in multiple ways.
Absolutely. And it's a different, like, what they're feeling, like what it's like to be in their shoes. And so like it was like just meaningful to be able to cheer someone on that's truly working for the same goal as you, that kind of thing.
So you watched those guys go out there. World came out a little hot, but they kind of faded in the second round. And by the end of the third round, it was basically over. It was the first time in the week, well, obviously, because it was the first workout, but we saw your teammates, they kind of looked like they backed off a little bit. They didn't necessarily finish the last round as fast as they could because obviously it's a win or lose scenario every time you go on the floor. And so that was kind of a nice way. I would think that was a nice way to start the competition for the team in general. And then, you're up next. Like you're gonna be taking the full. Well, actually, the girls went before you, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
But you're in the next event. There was some confusion about how this event was scored. Did you know that it was 2 separate points?
Yeah, we knew.
Okay.
And I think like on the broadcast they went back and forth saying it was and wasn't maybe. But yeah.
The girls seemed confused about it because Tia even had said, "I didn't know it was total time." She thought it was 2 points. And
maybe
then,
Tia should listen in the briefings better.
No, she had it right. She had it right, but like you said,
she had it right.
Asked that question. And
I got you.
This disarray. So
I understand.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tia.
So the girls do go before you. I'm glad I remembered that. And they take and the girls take the L. They get out to a fast start. They have this conundrum on the worm. They're not able to recover for it, so it's 1-1. Do you feel like that motivated you more than if you had taken the floor right after a win?
Yeah, also, like I will say the biggest question mark from practice the day before was going to be the worm workout for the girls. Everything else was solid. So, they did what they could, and that's all you can expect from them. But yeah, I think we wanted to make sure that we came out, make a statement. But on that type of workout, it's very much just smooth as fast. You can't rush anything. Like you just need to do the work and make no mistakes. And pretty early on, we were able to do that, and it was pretty smooth sailing.
For for the 3 of you, and you did this one with Jeff and Justin, how difficult was it to do the entirety of the worm work unbroken? Were you guys tired, or were you struggling by the end, or was that pretty manageable work?
It was pretty manageable. I think if it was like a tight race and it was like pushing to, so end of the second or start of the second round of worm, before we had done any worm work in the second round, we were just waiting for the world team because they were still finishing up and they were quite a ways behind. And I looked at Justin and we were kind of like, all right, everyone chill. Like, let's just finish this. And then I looked around and it was kind of dead for a second in the crowd. And I was like, no, Justin, let's give him a show. Like, so we ended up pushing the pace again. Like, obviously not all out, but we wanted to make sure that we were like working hard and giving the crowd what they wanted to see. So the worm never got like unbearable, but if it was a tight race, there probably would have been like more failure of movements. And you saw we started breaking movements in half. So like we would do it and then just pause with the worm just to catch our breath and then continue moving on. And we definitely would have had to do that for more rounds, I think.
One of the questions that someone asked earlier on Instagram was if I think that they'll ever expand to more teams. And, on the one hand, there's this situation where it's like, once you're in the lead, it's a win by an inch, win by a mile type of situation that you can kind of coast in there. From having gone through it, do you think that that's a good idea or a bad idea to have more teams, or do you like the 2 teams?
I think it depends on if you want like teams of 8 or teams of 4 to 6. I think either way, it's still exciting. Like that is just part of how the weekend works when it's 2 teams. Like it's winner takes all, and it still allows for some fun moments because of that format. So yeah, I guess it just depends on what they're looking for, and I don't think it would be a bad idea to try it, but I had no complaints.
Yeah, a couple of follow-ups. Aaron Fraser here. I think more of the events should have been scored as 2 events: weightlifting, which would a male female point, bike burpee run, male female point, maybe the gymnastics spotlight as well. Do you think that there would be a room for have the spotlight as 2 separate points, or did you like that it was a combined effort?
I like that it was combined because it made it a team event. Like the more that individuals are scoring individual events, it becomes an individual competition. Uh, and then you just accumulate points for the team. And I think there's room for some of that. And we did see it, like one male, one female got 1 point. And I think that's good. Like, I don't know how many times you should have individuals earning points for the whole team.
I think that's really well said. Another idea that I had, because of the way that it kind of worked in the end, was to put money on each event. So like,
Yeah.
every point is 5K or to the bank for the team or whatever, something like that. And I think that that would be maybe a cool thing to have, just in the case that it becomes more of a blowout than this weekend ended up being.
Yeah. No, that'd be really cool. Like have a little pot at the end for the winner, and then event wins. That'd be cool.
All right, so you guys go out there, you take care of business with the worm, and then you get to just enjoy the show to finish out the night with the rest of us. I mean, and I have to say, because obviously, watching Guy lift like this, it's just ridiculous. I don't know where you were standing watching him, but if I ever get a chance to call him on the broadcast, I think I'm going to ask the cameraman to put a camera behind him while he's lifting, especially in the clean and jerk, because his muscular structure of his body is something I don't understand to begin with. But then the way his shoulder goes from the front rack to the overhead position, and the way that I can see his muscles moving from behind, I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, me and honestly all the boys, like all the guys were talking, and it was it's something about his T-spine and the stability of his back through all of his lifts, and how vertical he moves through clean, snatch, and jerk. Like the barbell does not go forward or backwards whatsoever. And then when he catches and receives a clean, there is zero like weakness throughout his torso. Like you wouldn't know that there's 385 on the front rack. Where I do 135 thruster and it looks like my T-spine is bent in half.
friend of yours from the gym down there, Lee
I was
Pinkham.
supposed to say hi to Lee at the beginning.
He had a comment earlier on. I ignored him, but this one I'll include because it's in his expertise. And we should always give him credit as being the only competitive CrossFit athlete who's beaten me in a round of disc golf so far.
True. Me and Lee are always striving for T-spine extension.
So Guy does what Guy does. No one was surprised about that, but I don't think many people gave credit to Jeff for the weights that he lifted. He was within his total. If you scored it as a total, his heaviest lifts, I think, were 280 and 360, which puts him at 2 pounds less than he did in the games when we had a total 2 years ago, which was 4th place at the games at that time. And, I think that to lift the numbers that he lifted there, keeping in mind, obviously didn't compete at the CrossFit Games, but I'm sure he's also had a kind of a taper and a less intensity leading into this, like seemingly all of you guys had. And that it was actually for total pounds. So like in the first interval, he did 2 snatches. And it's not like you're sandbagging that first lift. Like you're still trying to get as many pounds as possible over the course of the weekend. Not that he was competitive with Guy necessarily, but I thought this was a really good performance by him.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand when you're lifting against Guy, like it is what it is. And our team knew that, and like that's just how it was. So Jeff just wanted to get out there and hit some good numbers, feel good, and then we'll move on to the next event. But shout out Ariel. I'm sure you're gonna. Is that where we're going next?
Go for it.
She 5 PRs in one night. Like we walk over there after her snatch, and we're like, "Was that a PR?" And she's like, "Well, it was 2. It was 2 PRs or 3 PRs already." And we're all like, "What?" And then so every clean and jerk we go over, like trying to figure out if it's gonna be a PR. And man, I went over and I was like, "This is your chance to stick it to the champ," like hyping her up. She's matching some of Tia's weights, and that was so exciting. And then every time she's like, I'm healthy. Every time she finishes a lift, it's just like, she's the best.
She is one of the best people you'll ever run across. I was maybe 3 or 4 people away from Dallin and her daughter over there. So she was coming over at times, celebrating with them, high-fiving us, whatever. And I asked her the same thing. I found out real quick that was a 5 PRs in one lifting event. That never happens.
Yeah.
But listen to her talk, listen to her interview, and she's, I think, constantly sharing wisdom in the way that she speaks about her training, that not just top level athletes, but athletes everywhere along the line of CrossFit could really benefit from understanding. And she just
For
said
sure.
it. I don't max out very often.
Yep.
In fact, I pretty much reserve that for competition. And
The only time I ever do is when I know I'm going to hit a PR. Like it's like, oh, this weight moved way too easy. And then I'll look at Matt and be like, yo, can we just go for it today? And we hit usually a pretty conservative PR. We're never like really grinding it out, and then we move on. So.
And look, if those types of things happen, great, because then you have a kind of a new benchmark that you can work off of in that 80 to 90% range, which is where I think a lot of the most successful CrossFitters do most of their lifting work. They'll build up to somewhere in there, do some complexes, do some intervals or EMOMs with it, call it a day.
Yep.
But the other thing is, despite all of your experience, you're still pretty young. So, for you to be casually achieving PRs in a training session, it's probably not going to be the same 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. I don't know.
Maybe.
There's still a lot to learn about the potential in the space.
For sure.
So you end the night tied up 2-2. Was that, and it kind of sounds like that what you guys weren't necessarily that surprised by that.
Yeah, we would have hoped to go 3-1, but like 2-2 was fine. Like how we looked at the weekend as a whole, we were in the spot we needed to be. But, yeah.
Were there any changes to the plan for the next day based on what had happened the night before?
No, all of our changes were saved for the final day.
That is that is a nuance of the competition. I'm not sure how much, because I haven't listened back. Chase and Sean talked about it on the broadcast, but each team was allowed 2 substitutions. Basically, there were windows for declaring. So, for example, prior to Friday's competition, you guys had to declare all your athletes by Thursday at 5 p.m. That was the first deadline. And then for the next day, Friday, you had to declare the beach workout by 12:30 and whatever. There was these.
Yeah.
And you could also make a substitution, and that had to be done basically within 5 minutes of the start of the event. And they made a substitution on night one that, like it's kind of like the NFL, right? When you spend that time out, that challenge early, you lose a little bit of potential late game strategy, but you guys held on to that.
Yeah. The reason they used the challenge is BK did not come off the floor looking too good.
It was definitely the right call. And I was speculating before the final set of events that he may not have, he may be experiencing some kind of jet lag, because he looked better and better as the week went on. And I said to somebody, I'm guessing that he's gotten some good sleep finally, and he's feeling more like himself. And then he more or less ended up saying the same thing at the end of the competition. And so, okay, everything kind of goes to plan. You guys roll out, and on day one, you went to the beach or day 2, you guys go to the beach. You already referenced it, but it's this long running workout, or a long run at the end of a long workout. And on paper, do you guys realize that collectively you're going to do 3 hours of work, and it's possible you're going to get 0 points out of that?
We try not to think of those things as athletes.
Well, because it could be motivating,
Yeah, no, we try and avoid those thoughts at all costs.
Well, after the fact, maybe it's okay to think about it. Thankfully, you got the point. And I did the live stream that morning, and as I kind of like did a little spotlight on each one of you guys, maybe some things to watch, look for, good, bad, that you've been working on. And then I came around the back and I looked at the monitors, and I realized I ended up on Jeff first and then worked my way to you and Pat. You guys were pulling basically within 10 meters of each other the entire time for 3,000 meters. I'm assuming that was planned.
We all talked, like, in an event like that, if as a male, everyone's going to be rowing between a 145 and a 147. And, like, that's just how it's going to be. Anyone who rows faster usually blows up. Anyone who runs slower gets left behind. So we all kind of said that, and then it was kind of based on feel how we were that morning. And so, yeah, we had a general idea what everyone was doing, and we were checking in with each other because I don't know why I haven't had this issue on the assault rower before, but I would get like a 137, a 152, a 143. It was just all over the place. It was basically by feel. So we would check in every 1,000 and just get an idea to make sure that whatever our rower was saying was at least close to the other guys.
I noticed that too, because usually if I was going to do that and walk behind the athletes rowing, I would say their 500-meter split pace. I'd watch 3 or 4 strokes and say, oh, Dallin's pulling basically a 146. But I saw this volatile move, like jumping between those, and I was like, that's what people can relate to. And I was like, well, I can't really. I have to go through, all of these guys and girls. I'll just tell them where they're at. Like I abandoned that. So it's interesting that you say that because I noticed it right away as well. Before we move on in the workout, I think this is interesting here. Dallin, are you selling any apparel? I'd love to get a pepper shirt.
We can work on a pepper shirt. You gotta see if my family usually makes like games and they're gonna make a rogue shirt. So I'll see what we can do, or we can get something on a tier shirt. Gotta talk with those guys.
In the meantime, you do have a belt still going on, right?
I have 2 belts. Well, 2 colors of the same belt. It's the best looking belt on the 2 food site.
Was one of the girls wearing your belt at one point during the weekend?
Oh yeah.
I think it was Danielle or Ariel.
It was Ariel. Halfway through the 21:15.9 on Sunday, during her rest, she was like, "Is there a belt somewhere?" I was like, "I got a big one, but yeah, it's all yours." So yeah, she repped it. Proud.
So if you want to support Dallin, check out the belts for now, and maybe we'll have a shirt in the future. I think that you've definitely earned having a legitimate shirt.
That'd be dope.
PCs, I do have the original pepper shirt though, where just black shirt and white says pepper.
Yes.
OG. It's a little better than Hopper's original shirt, which was
that's true.
Sharpie.
Well, you guys need to see the original teenage shirts because we had shirts all those years too. Those go way back.
Pull out a throwback.
I'll see if my family probably still has some in boxes somewhere, but yeah.
That would be cool. Or maybe like you got to be getting close to 10 years since you first competed at the games, which is wild.
Getting there.
Okay, so you do the row burpees. Just kind of burpees in the sand. Did you swallow any sand?
I didn't swallow any sand, but those were hard. Those were really hard. I wish I had just stepped over. But
that was allowed.
You could step over, yeah. At least on the second 30, I wish I would have. But the way I cycle my burpees, it was too much to think about to turn the opposite way of what foot I was stepping up with, or however I do it, maybe turning the same way. It was backwards from normal to make a smooth step. So I did kind of like a shuffle over kind of thing, but that's not super important.
No, but it's good for me to hear that they were hard. Like they were. I watch you guys. You ended up doing a lot of burpees this weekend. I
did a lot of, and I was listed for the 21:15.9, and if things went wrong, then I was going to do more burpees.
Jesus. But it's good for me to hear that the burpees are hard because I kind of look at them as, and I think to myself, and maybe you guys are doing this anyway, that you're basically, I would be doing those burpees, trying to keep my heart rate at a rate where I could settle into a 3K run pace that I wanted to.
Yeah, and because of that, like I slowed the last 20 probably. Just like, all right, chill out so you can get on the run and feel good.
And that was the only time, those last maybe 10 burpees or 15 burpees, where you dropped off the pace from Jeff and Pat just a little bit. And so you headed on the run, feeling pretty good. And then, we more or less lose sight of you guys for a while. And then so you're out there running. For people who don't really know, it was a more or less a 1,500 meter beach run down, turn around and come back. And there was a surfing competition happening in the ocean there. And it was an open course, right? There were just like other random people running on the beach too.
Yeah. Open course is honestly great sometimes. And then like running on trails or on the beach, because you have to pay attention to way more things than just how much you're suffering. Like where you're going to run, like what tracks are you going to follow? Oh, is there a kid throwing sand at me? Like that kind of thing. So I enjoyed that part of it. But yeah.
And as you're doing that, you're, because it's a turnaround, you're gathering information on the way back as well. So obviously going out there, you're like, oh, there's Jeff, there's Pat, there's me. Nobody passed you by the end of the run. So I'm assuming no one had passed you by the time you turned around. But did you know? Oh, okay.
I was passed. So I went out. I considered trying to stick with Pat, but we also discussed like run at a pace that you can pick up. You can run faster on the back half based on where the women are. So that's what we were kind of looking for at the turnaround. And so I was running at my pace. And I said, I'm going to run at my pace until what I assumed was Brent was going to catch me. And then I was going to sit on his heel to make sure that I didn't lose any time and that Pat and Jess times were only positive. But it was actually Akai that caught me right at the turnaround. And he passed me when we went around the time chip thing. And I just sat right on his heel for 700-ish, maybe, or maybe a little farther. But I tried to kick a little early. I was trying to listen to his breathing and that type of thing. And I kicked a little too early, and he immediately went back in front of me. And I was like, okay, then I'll just stay on you. And then we're going to sprint through this sand, and I'm going to beat you. But yeah, so I just sat right on his heels until I knew it was going to be a sprint to the finish. And our back half was faster than the front. So.
And then, yeah, you finish the straightaway, you turn up into the arena there, and the sand gets thick. And then you're basically, exactly like you said, out sprinted him in the thick sand to the finish. That must have felt pretty good.
Yeah, that was nice to, like, I was the question mark. Pat's great runner. Jeff's an incredible runner. And so just making sure I did my job for my team, and that felt good. And it was also good to see my running continue to get a little bit better each time I go out there.
And on the way back in, you have passed all the women, so you see where they're at. Tia was well ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
You see the next three women were you. Were you confident that you guys had done enough at that point, or was it kind of like, I'm not really sure?
When I came out, our women weren't together yet, but I know they were with maybe Saher, and then I know Gracie was a little farther back, and then I think on the back half is when they started running together. But even when they came in, I didn't know if it was enough because I know that there was such a big gap with Tia. But then it ended up being plenty, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember who I all talked about with it, but after the first three finishers, which was actually all the men plus Tia, you guys had established the North America team had a 3 minute and 20-ish second lead over the over the world. Tia, or then BKG came in next, and with the fourth person in, it was like, at that point, it's basically it was cut down by 2 minutes to like a minute 20 seconds difference, and it ended up being pretty close to that at the end, a minute and change or something. And so, not surprisingly, with I would say overall, but I thought that Emily might be closer to Tia than she was on that. She does have a history of being a little bit closer to her on those. But I guess I don't know if it was the burpees or if it was the row, but she was too far behind to do anything relative to Tia on the run.
Yeah, for sure. She ran fast though.
So you guys take the lead again. Good start to the day. You head back to the hotel, get situated, and then the first thing out of the gate is the gymnastics spotlight. I wasn't 100% sure how this one was going to go. Did you guys feel like this was a point you were going to get, or was it one you were concerned you might give away?
I think we expected a point. Like, we knew we had a great chance. And like with our game plan for what we wanted in the weekend, we definitely wanted that point, and we were hoping for it.
But then Tia, put the hammer down there at the end. And by the time the guys took the floor, I was thinking to myself, because I know Pat really well. And I still thought it was a chance. But it was kind of, for me, I was like, man, like, Guy looked really good last night. His fitness may be a little bit better than I, would have given him credit for. And 6 reps on that workout, or 7 reps, wherever I had a Pat, man, it seemed like it was going to be pretty tough to do.
Yeah, I mean, 6 reps in a workout like that's really pretty tough to make up. And Guy got out there and he did his job. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned the kind of the MVP narrative, and as the weekend's going on, I'm of course thinking to myself, and I thought that Guy would have been a candidate for that.
Yeah,
if the world team had won.
I think Guy definitely contributed, and that was a great call on their part. I don't know if he was like picked by the team captains or how that went, but great addition to the team for sure.
Well, the entire roster for the world team ended up changing a lot.
Yeah.
Well, who knows where it really shook out. And then the next one, you're in it. This was again, CrossFit game style teams, male, female, female. And this was probably the workout when I first saw it come out that I had the least idea about who would do and how it would go. I know that you mentioned you and Justin were practicing this back on Thursday. Did you guys identify that you two were going to be the guys pretty early on for this?
Yeah, I know it was going to be me for sure, and then
Any particular
potentially,
any particular reason?
I think it was the D-ball and the ski. And
Your
then, I
friend the
mean,
D ball.
yeah, yeah. And then, I mean, those are all great movements for me. I like Justin is obviously the fastest at GHDs, but I've always done pretty well compared to him. Like the quarterfinal workout with the GHDs and V-ups, me and James were just a couple reps behind him. Uh, the games this year, like so, I feel confident in my GHDs, and all those movements are great for me. And it just worked out that Justin was going to be the best fit to go in there based on different strategies. We were trying to get certain people wear on the clean ladder with the least amount of fatigue. But this one was honestly probably one of the events I was most excited for. And then we even came in with a little bit of a deficit, and like we were locked in, and we were very ready to get onto those ski ergs.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you didn't watch it, the women went first, and it was a lot of time. Like they were out there chipping their way down the floor, and then they got to sprint all the way down to tag you guys in. And you're watching as they give up 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. It was, I think, 17 or 18 seconds difference. And that's like, it's a relay. If you've ever done a relay and you're the last one and you're just like,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, let's go. Like, it's not going to be enough to match them. I got to beat them by this much time. And
Yeah.
were you and Justin just looking at each other like, time to go to work?
Yeah, and also like there wasn't much time to be gained watching the women. Like it was very hard to make up time. And so we knew we couldn't go in with too big of a deficit, but we were confident we could close the gap as long as we got to the GHD close to the same time.
And you
So
guys
that's what
were
we said.
ripping on that ski erg.
Yeah, I looked over a couple times and Justin was skiing faster than me, and I was like, "All right, boy, we gotta go."
Well, I had a conversation with someone while you guys were skiing because you two use kind of different skiing techniques. You stay a little bit more upright and get, I think, kind of the upper body and core power going, which is a little bit more of the Scandinavian and Norwegian style of doing it.
Yeah,
And these are my names for them. Justin does more what I call the American style, where he really comes up on his toes, drives all the way through the heels, and like gets the legs transitioning into the pull, and he's almost vertical to the ground when he finishes it. So it looked to the person that was next to me like he was skiing really fast, aggressive, and hard. And I said, don't be surprised if they come off at the same time. Dallin might not look like he's exerting as much effort, but that's a very powerful position too.
Yeah. I mean, we got off very close to the same time, and Pat was yelling in our ears that we were skiing like 300 cows an hour faster than Brent and BK, and I think it clicked pretty, like it was right then that me and Justin were like, all right, we're winning this, and we're going to make sure it's not close.
Yeah, and then it just I think the commentators in the stadium, actually, like Mike or Josh, had said, no one can make a mistake on these med ball tosses.
Yeah,
and they did, and you guys didn't.
No,
that was kind of it.
And then when I saw it go, I was just like, go, go, go! Even though Justin's doing a GHD and I can't even see him.
Do you need to go?
No, my wife's just saying hi.
Corinne, one of the best.
Yes.
So that must have been a great feeling because it was, it was your first time that night, but second time of the day that you had a really nice execution on a workout and like seriously contributed to taking an important point for the team.
Yeah, that was what I was there to do, get points and everyone go to sleep good.
and it was at that point in the competition where as I said, I'm like thinking about these MVPs. I was like, okay, if the North America wins this, Dallin's name definitely could be in the conversation. Were you conscious of that at all? Like, I'm definitely pulling my weight a little bit here. I'm doing really good for my team.
No, I mean, no, not at that point.
Good. That's another thing you shouldn't be thinking about that I should.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really remember even considering that at that point at all. I know, like the following day, like I did a lot of work, but it wasn't like, oh, MVP. Like it's like, well, these are the workouts I should do well on, and I should be able to contribute a lot to my team, so I'm going to. But yeah,
the nightcap on Saturday, I felt like it was like kind of like a turning point in the weekend for me. Like
Yeah.
this is when I was like, oh my God, this thing has some serious potential. Like that was really, really fun to watch. I would have, this is the one point. This is the one point you didn't end up taking. This is your one loss, but I kind of feel like you were
The one loss,
sacrificial.
but I didn't. We had already lost by the time I took the floor. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that to my team. I got the loss too.
Were you kind of the sacrificial lamb here?
Yeah, you guys will see some pretty funny clips on my YouTube. Lots of behind the scenes, Justin's YouTube. There were some good jokes going on. I posted that little Hunger Games clip where, like, on the star line, I went like this, and where's my hands?
Ooh, okay.
Did the whole thing. Just having fun. Like, we'd already lost the point, but also even if we hadn't lost the point, then like I'm not gonna be Gee in that clean ladder.
I don't know the person that is, so. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys
But
find
yes.
them, let us know because we'll set it up like reps ahead or something.
Seriously.
But let's just like put aside the World North America thing. The first two matches of this clean ladder, Seher Kaya, who's the two-time fittest woman in Asia, but she's never been inside the top. She's also has the two best finishes in the history of the games for any woman from Asia. Champion of the semifinal there. But relatively unknown. Like at the highest level, she hasn't, won workouts at the games. She hasn't like drawn this huge amount of, and she's going against one of the most popular, polarizing, and well-known athletes in the world of CrossFit, and Danielle Brandon, and she beats her.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, our goal was to win the first 4 matchups so that the last 2 didn't matter. It was off to a rocky start, but I mean, yeah, like good for Seher. Like I got to know her a little bit, and she's just very kind, like awesome person. And I mean, she went out there and executed, and that's part of what we do. And so like, it was just awesome to see how happy she was. It was cool.
And then you follow it up with Medeiros versus Anyola Kai. Medeiros is coming off a win in the clean ladder at the games this year. Like I'm looking at this like you are as a guaranteed point. I know Anyola really well, and I know that he's good at this stuff. But I didn't think that he could beat Justin on this. And then he did it too. And at that point, I mean, that's where I was like, I had said in an interview I did earlier in the week, just like I'm expecting this to happen at some point. One of these people, these athletes that you don't know that well, is going to do something that shocks everyone. I just didn't think that it was going to happen back to back like that. How caught off guard were you personally or your team watching
that? My first initial thought was like, oh, maybe we should have had Jeff do the first one. Because so the workout prior is like ski with pole, bent arms, wall ball, you're squatting, pressing, whatever. But then holding the 30-pound med ball is a lot of like pulling with bent arms. And then the D ball, more bent arm pulling. And then to go pulling gymnastics into power clean, I think Justin's pull is just a little more fatigued than he expected. And that's why that last bar wasn't caught as high.
Yeah, and then Yoel had done nothing the whole night.
Yeah,
so he was primed and ready. And for him, it's like, this is my only chance this 1 minute to make myself count for my team today.
Yep. So, I mean, maybe we could have made an adjustment there, but
interesting.
Like, I mean,
and I also love that.
Like, good for him.
It's also cool to hear that in the moment, like you're conscious of that and you're like having that thought and evaluating it. When you could be caught up in the emotion with everyone else, you're still thinking about the variables in play.
Yeah, man. That was one of the funnest parts, was all the strategy and moving players.
So, it goes on. Emma Tall wins her matchup. Brent gave Jeff a great run for his money. I was surprised how close Brent was there.
A little closer than, I mean, we'd already, our game plan was out the window, but it was like, we got to get one of these.
Yeah, Brent had beaten Jeff in that, I mean, because like, not only Jeff is obviously well known for the clean and jerk, but especially his capacity to power clean the bar, which is faster. I just didn't see Brent's not a fast twitch muscle guy. I mean, it was actually one of the most impressive things for me that weekend was how close he stayed to Jeff on that.
Yeah.
And then, Tia does her thing. Guy does his thing, though. You had a little fun with him at the beginning, which I appreciated.
Guy gave me a 1/4 of a point for beating him on the bar muscle.
Someone next to me is like, wow, Dallin's celebrating too early. He's got all his barbells. And I'm like, Dallin knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. I knew, honestly, like, I assumed I was only going to clean 3 barbells by the time we got to the end, and I was pulling it, and my belt popped because my shirt got stuck when I reset it. And I was like, Gee's done. I don't need to be pulling heavy weights when I haven't lifted much. And yeah,
Right.
that's why some people commented on that post where I was like celebrating. It was like taking wins where I can. I mean, there was no race to celebrate early in.
So now it's 2 days down, 1 to go, and it's still tied. How is the team feeling at this point? You're like, okay, this is a little closer than we thought, or do you still feel like you're in the driver's seat?
Sunday morning was like definitely a little more tense. We expected the gymnastics point or the weightlifting point based on where we had people lined up and what we wanted to do. We were hoping that the monostructural test would end it, and we'll get to that. But so we're 1 less point than we had hoped to, and coming up was the biggest unknown test of the weekend, I think, where all 8 people are working. Anything can happen. We're just moving objects. And so there's no predicting what would happen.
No, and although it didn't end up being a factor, it wasn't just the moving of the objects. There was this mandatory 40 double under buy-in, where in the first round you could strategize it to have either your best jump ropers do more than 1 round, or you could, which is what the second thing is what you guys did, which is you put your grunt work, horses out first, which was you.
Yeah, I did a lot. This is when I was like, wow, I did a lot of work.
But then on the back half, everyone had to do the 40. And if you just had one athlete that for whatever reason missed once and then missed again, like the whole thing could just fall apart on one person's double unders.
Yeah. I honestly didn't even cross my mind like how not good it would be if someone tripped. I only did 1 set of double unders, but I was pretty fatigued. It was like, it didn't even cross my mind like, oh, hey, like you can't mess this up or else that's not good at all. And I think that's just like controlling what you think about. Like, don't get that even in your head, like, oh, you better not trip. It's like, you're going to trip. So I try not to even think about that as a possibility.
The third time where it's something that's better not for you to think about. But I was streaming this one as well, and I was thinking about it because as I saw what was going on, well, first of all, and it's been talked about, but as soon as Jeff, like I'm trying to stay wide because there's so many things happening. And as soon as Jeff got us on his shoulders and the other 2 people dropped away and he started walking, I zoomed in on the stream. I was like, yep, this is something that needs to be shown.
Yeah.
Because it was different than what was going on. And then, after this, you guys had the lead. And so, I'm like telling people, well, let's see how these second set of double unders that go, because the only chance I think that the world has at this point is mistakes from North America. But you guys were just kind of laser focused, take care of the job, get across the finish line. Did you know before you finished that you'd already had the point in the bag?
I think when we were about halfway done with moving the stuff back, or I mean, maybe like during the sleds, I knew we had like a good chance, but we had to finish the workout. And then halfway through that stuff was kind of when I was like, okay, I think I'm going to slow down a little bit. I've been out here for a while.
Like you're able to look over and kind of see, okay, they still have this, we have this.
I guess I won't even say I chose to slow down. Like I went hard on the front half because there was less people out there for that amount of time. And then I pulled half a sled by myself. Emily came and got me, and then we pulled another sled.
How brutal was that, by the way? In the sand, in the sand?
It was definitely heavier, and I didn't get the straps high enough on my shoulders, or I wasn't standing as upright when I was practicing because of the fatigue, and so the sled wasn't lifted as high. But
if you want to feel good about your sled pull, go back and watch the stream. Did you see what Guy was doing?
Just like that. Yeah. What I was going to say about the worm, when Jeff picked it up and everyone went crazy, I knew he had just picked up a worm because I was getting ready to pick one up too. And then they went crazy again when I had it. And then every time someone picked one up, it was like the funnest thing because I knew
there were two different weight worms, and I couldn't tell which one was which, but I think I might have actually misspoke on the stream. Did he do a light one, the first one, or a heavy one?
I do think we started with the light just to see, because we didn't practice it all in the back
Didn't
because
want them to see.
we didn't want them to see it. We all very secretively watched a video on Adam Neifer's phone, so we had an idea of what we needed to do, but we agreed we'd start with the light one to make sure that it was doable, and then the heavy one. I think Justin carried. I know Justin carried one on the way back, but some people did carry the heavy one, and then there was enough people down there that 2 people could carry some of the worms, but it worked.
Yeah, I think I misspoke on the stream. I think that I said that Jeff took the heavy one and you took the light one as the first 2 across, but I think it was actually you that took the heavy one when I was looking back at it.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly,
but either way, it was the difference maker there, and it gave you guys 2 distinct advantages, in my opinion, going into the final 3 workouts or the final 4 points. You already alluded to one of them, which is that you guys had 2 substitutions in your back pocket, and then obviously you also had the 1-point lead. I'll let you explain what the North America strategy was in terms of lineup going into this one.
Yeah, so I guess if you're cool with it, we'll look at these 3 events as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 points available. We're up 1. We know if we can win the monostructural and the 21-15-9, it's over because we'll be up by 3 points. Captain's challenge is worth 2. So that's the number 1 goal. So right now me and Emily are listed on monostructural and the 21-15-9. If we win the monostructural, we'll sub the captains in for us, and they'll go, and we're pretty confident they could win the 21-15-9 workout. If we lost the monostructural, the 21-15-9 no longer matters. Me and Emily sludge through it and get time capped because we are both dead at this point, like destroyed, nothing left with us. So we get time capped for sure, doesn't matter. And then it comes down to the captain's challenge. And we didn't know what the captain's challenge was when we planned to save our substitutions. So that was kind of up in the air as well. But we'd all tested variations of the 21-15-9, and we knew that coming off that workout, no one would be feeling fresh. So it was
especially the guys. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I had to go back to back. I felt terrible. Yeah. I felt so bad for Pat and Bjorkman on that.
DK. Dude, yeah. But so then me and Emily very quickly understood that a lot was riding on the monostructural test. So from the time the beach was over until the end of the monostructural.
I talked to you on the live stream, and I don't know if it was on the live stream or right after, but you said, "Hey man, I'm going to go because I got another point to win." Like you were immediately in that zone.
Well, I switched to individual mode because I was out there working by myself. It was food, nap, boots, like very focused, wasting no energy. The team was like, Dallin and Emily, don't go to the briefing. Like go relax, eat, sleep, and we'll take care of the briefing, all that kind of stuff. And you could feel how much was riding on that point. And if you watch the live stream, the team was very much involved.
Dude, that had to be so cool. Just because I think that's the most pain anyone felt that weekend. What the 4 of you had to do.
I wish I could remember it because that's the most pain I've ever been in my entire career. That was the worst thing I've ever done.
But you without a doubt. These 7 people who not only are some of the best in the world, but also have just had this incredible opportunity to bond for 3 days leading into this. They're around you. And I can't think of a better environment to be in if you have to do the most painful thing you've ever done.
Yeah. I mean, 7 people surrounding you on every single implement. All I remember is I work really hard, blackout. Someone's rubbing ice on me. Someone's shaking my legs, hitting them. Justin said that my quads felt like a kneecap because they were so full of just lactic acid. They were so hard. He couldn't even adjust, move them. There's little parts that I remember of people saying one time on the runner, I think Pat just yells, bury him. He's just yelling. And so it was as painful as it was for that entire hour, the 30 minutes after as well. It was something I'll never forget. But.
And I don't think that anyone who watched it or who was there will forget it either. I mean, that was when I first saw that, I was like, man, that is brutal. What maybe they could just have one person do each of the 3 things. But,
yeah.
you owned it. And all 4 of the people who ended up doing that, they just owned it. They're like, this is going to suck, but I have to do it. The team rallied behind them. By that point, everyone understood that was part of it. And I thought it was, I know it was terrible for you, but it was also one of the most beautiful parts of the weekend that I got to watch.
Yeah. Well, when that event came out, I was like, I'll do this. Like, not really thinking, but like, I saw Echo Bike. I'm like, king of the Echo Bike, I'll do this one. And when we first saw it, I thought it was scored like the bar muscle up, where like first of 4 implements wins. So I was like, I'll win the burpee and the Echo Bike, and then whatever happens on the run doesn't matter because Emily will win the burpee and the run. It's kind of what I thought, but then it became total time, and I think that benefited us. I actually just posted the text conversation on my Instagram if you want to pull it up. I texted it. I posted it like right before I got on this. But Pat was like,
in a story?
No, it's on my very last post I made. You just have to swipe. But Pat was like, Dallin, are you certain you can burpee fast enough? I've seen Brant burpee. And I was like, I know I can win the bike. I know I can win the burpee, and I'll prove something on the run. And then Pat let me know or shared some motivation. Is it up there?
I don't know. I'm struggling. Let me see if I can find it. I don't have my producer here with me. This is not it. I'm struggling to even get out of here. Where's down? Let's go to your page. You tell me.
It's that one you're on right now.
This one.
Yeah.
And you want me to scroll to this side? Okay. Yes. Here we go. Talk us through it.
So Pat, I'll read it in case anyone's listening, but Pat says to our whole team, he had just got done saying, I hope this is day 1 so that we can know if you can trust you or you just let us all down. And then he says, I take a different leadership style with everyone. For you, I withhold my love. And I said, it must be earned. And then Pat says, the hug you will receive at the finish line will be representative of your performance. I could sweep you off your feet into a warm state of bliss that makes you never want to leave my bosom. Or perhaps a chilling hands around the neck struggle snuggle awaits you, and my face is the last you see as your world plunges into darkness. The choice is yours. Either way, finish line's going to be lit.
Wow. Well, Vellner, leave it to him, like you said. And
then they are. I got the hug.
And I think there was somewhere else you said, like, I'm glad the boys were there to pick me up before I fell down.
Yeah, because I don't think I would have lasted much longer. I mean, once Justin sat me down, I was on the ground. Yeah. Well, anyway, this is the most painful workout I've ever done. And so, like, that's why we're getting multiple posts about it, all this stuff, because, yeah, I don't want to forget it, but I do at the same time.
And I think I heard you say something about this. I mean, it was impressive what Brent did on the Echo Bike, and that like could have rattled you, but I think you had the mindset of, I think I can recover better than him going into the second part.
I like never peaked like power output on it. Like I got to the number I wanted to see is like 117, and I just held it as long as I could. And so it was kind of like I think I can go like a 95% effort here. And I think Brent told me he saw 122, which is
he said absurd. He saw a number that he'd never seen before.
Yeah. So I think it was 121 or 122. So he definitely got it peaked a little higher than me. I just held on to it longer. And when I looked over and we both stopped at the same time, I think my whole team panicked for a second because I was supposed to bank 5 or so seconds, knowing Emily was going to lose some time on the bike, but pulled it together.
Well, and I think that really this workout, even though it was these 3 unique parts, to me was another testament in the way that the beach run was to all the work that you guys have been doing. Because where you actually made up the most time was in the burpees, if you look at the actual work, but also in the ability to recover and repeat a hard effort. And I know that those are things that you have been personally working on with Matt for a couple of years now. And, you never kind of know exactly what opportunity you'll have to show those, but I felt like in some ways this was just as telling as the beach run of some of the progress you guys have made.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like I said, it was a great opportunity to test things lower stakes than like the CrossFit Games, and you just send it and just see what happens, kind of.
So you get the job done there, and at that point, you pretty much know that you're as far as, your competition, you're done. You're on the bench for the last two at this point. You're going to activate the subs, which you guys do. And so after going through this hellish workout, you get a chance to just kind of soak it in. And the athletes go out for the 21:15.9, and that workout's not exactly easy either, by the way.
It's so hard. I didn't want to do it at all.
And this is when Bjorgvin showed Bjorgvin's caliber and quality that we didn't get to see on the first day. And but the guys, I mean, Jeff and Justin, like, that was really impressive for me to watch. And it, that even though I don't really feel this way, like, it kind of made me bummed out that I didn't get to see Jeff at the games. It also got me excited to see everyone at Rogue coming up, because this is a hard workout, and those guys looked phenomenal doing it.
Yeah, they crushed that one, and we knew they would. Like, we expected that from them. You
can't be like that good. Like, you would have done well on it too. I mean, you probably aren't beating Jeff and Justin on that workout, but like, you would have been fine. You can't be one of the top guys in the world without being good at a workout like that.
Yeah.
But you still see the difference in capacity and ability, and then obviously you see what Tia does, and I can't remember who posted it. Someone posted something today. It's just like, she's on a different level, Yeah, and that's just how it is.
She's unbelievable, and for the first time, I experienced the frustration of the women's field competing against Tia. But I'm also grateful. I never would have expected I'd have the opportunity to compete against Tia. So
that's pretty cool. And I'll throw this out there just as a little. Phil got in her ear at one point this weekend. Phil Thomas from WZA. Yeah. He said to her, "Hey, you've already beaten out all the girls. Maybe we got to get you in the ring against one of the male champs."
That would be different. That would be fun.
She didn't say no to it. She was like, "Ooh, that sounds kind of fun."
I talked with everyone in the back about it. Like, all the Australians want an event, like a reps ahead of Down Under. Like, the Europeans were like, "This is the first time we've heard of it, but like, I want in." Like, so it's cool. Dang. That's actually scary.
There's a lot of possibilities. I do think. Well, let's finish out the TYR Cup. So the team takes the point. It kind of went as planned. You guys, if Emily and I do the job, we have confidence they'll do the job, and then the finals kind of for fun. But if the money was on the line and there was 2 points and $10,000 up for grab, it would have been a different story.
I don't think we would have got it though.
No, I found out about that workout, I think it was on Thursday. It was on Friday. I think I was doing an interview for the documentary, and they gave me like a real time. They showed it to me and said real time, like, what do you expect? Because the athletes, like, you have to have the captains. And I was like, ooh, things could happen leading up to it, of course. But on paper, this actually, with the 60 overhead squats at the end in particular, like, this is a pretty good workout for Bjorgvin and Tia. I think that I would give them the slight edge on this.
Yeah. But it is interesting taking into all the fatigue with limited rest, different format, but
right. And the scenarios that you walked us through of what could have happened, how it would have looked if we got this point, not got that point, all the things leading up to it. So it's a lot of variables unknown, but at the end of the day, I have to just, I don't know. BK did have a good post today, but man, like, that was pretty heroic effort from him at the end of the weekend.
Absolutely. That's why we love BK.
Yeah. So you guys take down the title 7-6, and it's one of those things where 1 point win is a 10-point win. You got the win, they got the loss. Had to feel good. But for the team, like, when you guys were there on the floor and it was just you guys celebrating, hugging each other, they're holding the cup. What were the sentiments? What were the emotions? What were the words that were exchanged?
I think it was like, not so much the words that were exchanged, but we all understood. Like, we all kind of have this lifelong bond now. Like, we're the first North American team. We got the cup, and just even more than that, we became very close friends, and we all care very much about each other and understand how blessed we are to get to do stuff like this. And we're all going to keep working so that the team can run it back next year. But yeah.
Is there? What are the rules around the TYR Cup? Can you guys take that with you? Do you get to pass it around? Or do you not know?
I think Pat has it. He was the captain, so we'll see. I imagine he brought it home. Maybe Wadapalooza shipping it to him, or yeah, I'm not sure.
He posted a picture with the MVP award and the trophy, but I don't know where he took the picture. So we'll have to keep digging to find out. But I do like the concept of the Stanley Cup, where it's like, there's 8 people, everyone takes it for a month. Maybe it starts with one captain for 2 months and ends with the other for 2 months or something like that.
That'd be fun.
And if that does end up happening, then I think there's also like an obligation or responsibility of each team member to take it somewhere cool or and post a picture or a video.
Funny post. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. I think we could make that a good time.
Wherever it is, maybe there's a possibility of that, and we'll see. Final thoughts on the TYR Cup being a part of it. Like you said, it's the first edition, but I think that there's a huge sentiment from people wanting to see it again, and it sounds like you feel the same way.
Yeah, just very grateful I got to be a part of it. Grateful for the fans that came out, and like that I got to interact with them, all of those things, and just be such a cool venue. That was another huge part. And then also just like stoked that I get to represent a company like TYR that's willing to back things like this.
Man, I'm glad you said that, because even I was talking with them and they said, this is kind of like, we're beta testing, but we're also investing a lot of money in the beta test. Like, a lot of people beta test in the background and whatever, and then they roll something out after that. And this was like, we want to do it. We're going to put the money behind it. And we're going to just see what happens. And I mean, I don't know what it looks like on the financial end of things, but from every other perspective I got to see it, this was not only a huge success, but it felt like, especially coming off of this year's games and everything around it, that this was needed for everybody.
Yeah. So on so many levels, I think it was very much needed, and it just felt good to be there. And yeah, like TYR just carrying Dallin and Loud and Live team are so open to feedback from us, and just talking, and it was an incredible experience from the moment we got there. So.
And I also think the format, the condensed windows of competition, it allows the athletes to sleep in, to spend some time with family, to walk on the beach, do the recovery, sleep, like you said, if you need to. So that's a format that Dubai has. They compete in the block a window in the evening, but you don't see it too often otherwise.
Yeah, and then another cool part about that was like we got to be doing meet and greets and spending time with sponsors, meeting fans, and just doing activations where we normally don't get to because we're competing all day. And
or if you do, it's like it's stressful to do it. Whereas this was like, I can do this, and it's not really that big of a deal relative. It want to impact my competition.
Yeah, and then just like all the fans being there, like made it super fun.
Tia did meet and greets, and I don't think she ever does meet and greets like that.
Yeah, I mean, she was at Rain for a little bit, I think, but yeah, just overall, like all the vendors, I think they had a great time because it was also free to the public, which was cool.
That was really cool, and it's I don't think this was maybe necessarily the reason why they did this, but having something like that the people who are just walking by on the beach, which it's Huntington Beach, there's people walking by all day, can see that, generate some curiosity. They could sit down and listen to those experience stage conversations, which were great, by the way. A feedback I would give to Loud and Live is they should record those or stream those. Just have a stream. Like, no one needs to man it. Just set up a camera and let it run. Because there were some great conversations that took place there, and I hope some of them are captured. But there's the potential for people who have no idea what CrossFit is to have been there this week, by coincidence, and walk into a CrossFit gym sometime this week or next week for the first time and potentially have a life-changing experience because of it.
Absolutely.
If you can't answer this, that's okay.
I am actually unsure, so I cannot answer that. Not because I can't, but I don't have an answer.
Well, that was awesome to walk through that. I think since it just did come up, I will ask you, because you've participated in Reps Ahead once before. This was for Phil and me and for everyone who's involved. Like, this was obviously a huge step forward in terms of exposure to do it on that stage preceding such a cool competition as the TYR Cup. Did you get to watch any of the matches? And two,
Absolutely.
Were you guys out there during the men's match?
I would not have missed that for the world.
Well, tell me your thoughts about it. James versus Jason.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't
Let me ask you
decide.
this. Before we started, did you think you know who was going to win?
No, so all I knew is I wanted it to go at least 2.5 minutes into the third round so that they would both suffer for the longest amount of time as possible. I could say I wanted Jason to lose. I could say I wanted James to lose. And then they ended with a tie, which means they both lost. So it was a win for me.
Perfectly said. Obviously, those guys are two of your closest friends. James for a long time, Jason more in the past couple of years, and rivals. And there were some people that gave Reps Ahead and Phil kind of a hard time for not being prepared for that. He's done a ton of these, not on the pro circuit, and he's never had a tie before. I actually, when I had a chance to think about it after the fact, you could implement a tiebreaker, and it's a tiebreaker. I liked the way that it ended up working out. I'm not sure if he was thinking about it exactly this way, but basically he said, if it comes down to a tie, the guy who is ahead in the final interval, or who wins the final interval, will take the workout. And of course, you could flip it on its head and say, no, shouldn't it be the guy who was ahead going into the final interval? I like the way he did it because visually at the end of the workout, Jason was ahead of James on the floor. And so it just like makes more sense from a storytelling aspect for me.
Yeah, I had no problem with how the tiebreak was decided. It does make me wonder though, with like elite athletes, we're so smart in how we approach things and so similar. Sometimes I'm like, was 12 reps too much? But then we saw with like Annika and Kyra, like, I don't know. It's definitely like going to keep taking some adjusting and trying, but each match is going to be different. But it's exciting. It's fun.
And I appreciated those who expressed that sentiment. Like, it's the same one that honestly that Dallin briefed the press on before TYR Cup. He's like, hey, this is our first time doing this. Like, we know we're not going to get everything perfect. Give us feedback. We want to work. Like, if you think that there's something we could do better, differently, whatever, we want to hear that. And the representatives from the PFAA were there. They were on site. They were super invested, and they had the same mentality. I was able to have very open conversations with them and provide critiques, criticism, positive points of view, and they were taking all of that in. And that's what Phil's doing too. He wasn't at this when we first started doing this year. This wasn't on the agenda to do this on the big stage in Huntington Beach before the TYR Cup, but it happened. He put himself out there. I mean, he saw the zeros and he wanted to walk away. But then he realized, no, I'm the guy. I can't walk away. I have to make a decision. Yeah. And I mean, and he did. And I think he made a great decision. And I think it was a match that if Reps Ahead, picks up momentum, that we can always look back at and be like, that was a match that will go down in history.
For sure. Yeah. It was super exciting. The crowd was all over it. But yeah, it was fun.
So if you get the invite, which I think you will, what's your dream matchup in your next Reps Ahead appearance?
And the next Reps Ahead is, Jason Hopper's the champ. Now take him down.
Well, he didn't beat you, and you won your last one also. So I think it makes sense that you guys were.
I think Phil should raise the winner's hand of that match, and then they call out the next person on the floor. I think that'd be sick.
Jason called out the entire podium from the games, which is exactly what you'd expect from Jason.
From Jason, yeah, it sounds about right.
Well, there'll be another opportunity. I think that it was well received. I'm glad that more people got to see it. The athletes in the Reps Ahead, just like in the TYR Cup, seemed to have a great time, and the fans there were really getting into it as the matches were getting close to the end.
For sure.
And I think that we're at the end. I was actually only planning on staying on an hour, but this was super fun. It was, as always, easy to talk to you. And I hope for people listening in that it was fun to get like kind of the behind the scenes look at the walk through the weekend from Dallin Pepper's point of view. For
sure. Appreciate you all listening. I didn't see any comments because I don't have it pulled up, but
there's some great comments in here, and we could have pulled them up. A lot of them were really positive. This is probably one that's worth pulling up. Loud and Live Sports. Grateful to have had you a part of it. Yeah.
I guess I should say, make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube because behind the scenes are coming out hopefully Thursday. That's the plan. or so, the first part of it. So we got some good stuff. We mic'd up while we were on the floor in the warm-ups, so there's going to be some good stuff.
There were a ton of media on hand, personal for the athletes. All the big media outlets pretty much had someone there. And I know that many people will be dropping some stuff behind the scenes. And as great as the weekend was, clearly, if you weren't there, you don't get to see all of that. But through Dallin and these other channels, you'll get to see some of that stuff that we've been talking about, the camaraderie, the teamwork, the joking and fun that the athletes had. And I think that people will enjoy that a lot. So subscribe to this channel, check it out later this week, and be on the lookout for some more of that stuff. We'll be having one drop at some point as well, from our point of view. So should be some more opportunities for people to enjoy what was a very, very memorable weekend in this sport, I think.
For sure.
All right, Dallin, I'm going to try to get some sleep. I'm sure you're going to do the same. And
Yes, sir.
I guess we'll see you in Scotland.
Yeah, I'll be coming up quick. So thank you very much.
All right. Have a good night. Talk to you
too.
soon, brother. Dallin Pepper, second at the games this year and taking the W with North America. And if you didn't catch it earlier, 7 times he took the floor, 6 points he took for his team, and certainly could have been an MVP if that was the criteria for it. But fun to walk through that with him. I think I'll save some of the other questions and stuff that you guys had, because it is pretty kind of late, and I still need to have dinner actually as well. But thank you guys for being with us. There's a big group here, and for everyone else who watches or listens after the fact, hope you guys enjoyed it. Tomorrow I'll be running back another evening podcast, this time with Kyle Shipp, who's the media director for the Masters Fitness Championship. He and I will be doing the broadcast with Bella Martin on the floor for the interviews this weekend from Indianapolis. So we will see you guys tomorrow night. And until then, take care of each other and be friendly, our friends.